Dad said I didn't deserve college. Now he's begging me for help, and I gave him exactly what he deserved. My dad once told me I didn't deserve college tuition, said I wasn't like his golden boy. Now he's the one needing help, and I gave him exactly what he earned. I'm 32 now. My younger brother's 27. Most of our childhood was spent with Mom, since Dad was barely around. Looking back, he wasn't doing anything important. He just chose work over family. I don't remember him being home much, maybe on some weekends, but even then, we never did any of that father-son bonding stuff. He missed everything. My first baseball game, school awards, even that time I landed in the ER with a broken arm. Mom handled it all. She was always there. But when my little brother came along, it was like Dad flipped a switch. Suddenly, he was Mr. Super Dad, showing up to every school play, baseball game, even Cub Scout meetings. The guy who couldn't make time for me was suddenly throwing the football around in the yard, giving pep talks, acting like a real father, but only to my brother. Now don't get me wrong, I never blamed my brother. It wasn't his fault. But watching all that unfold, yeah, it messed with me. I was just this quiet kid, always hoping Dad would notice me. Meanwhile, my brother got all the attention without even trying. Dad lit up around him like he was a mini version of himself. And it wasn't just me that saw it. Mom noticed it too. She did her best to make things feel fair. If anything, she leaned in harder with me. More reading together, helping with homework, just spending time. It wasn't flashy stuff, but it meant the world to me. She used to say, "You don't have to be like your dad to be great." I needed that, especially when Dad looked at me like I was just wrong, like I wasn't the kind of son he wanted. I tried to connect with him a few times, thought maybe if I showed him what I was into, books, computers, that kind of thing, he'd take an interest, but he just looked at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't figure out. Eventually, I gave up trying. Figured if he wanted a relationship, he'd have to put in some effort too. Spoiler alert, he never did. Meanwhile, my brother, he was everything Dad wanted. Into sports, not afraid of dirt, stubborn like him. They did everything together, fishing, camping, tossing the football. While they were outside, I'd be inside reading or messing with some tech project. And when Dad would walk in and see me buried in a book, he'd just shake his head. Never said it, but I could feel him thinking, why couldn't I have two sons like the younger one? He didn't have to say it out loud. It was in every sigh, every time he praised my brother but barely looked at me. Honestly, I think in his eyes, I was Mom's kid. She was the one who showed up for everything in my life after all. When Dad was around, he mostly stayed out of the way, unless he wanted to throw in some half-baked life advice that never landed because, truth is, he didn't know me. Once my brother got into sports, it was like Dad found his calling. He practically became the team's unofficial coach. They'd come home pumped up, talking about game highlights like I wasn't even there. I'd sit there nodding, pretending to be part of it, but I was invisible. No, how was your day? No, what have you been working on? Just silence. I kept hoping things would change as I got older, that maybe he'd finally see me for who I was and not who I wasn't. But nope. He'd drop stuff like, "A real man isn't afraid to get his hands dirty," or, "Why don't you join a team?" I remember just feeling defeated. Like no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough for him. Mom was the opposite. She'd ask about the books I was into, sit with me while I tinkered with tech stuff, really listen. She'd tell me she was proud. And honestly, that's what kept me going. She was doing both jobs, because Dad clearly wasn't going to. She never once made me feel like I had to change to be valuable. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have had the guts to chase my own dreams later on. But then, I lost her. I was 13, just a kid, and suddenly, the one person who understood me, who saw me, was gone. After that, everything fell apart, and somehow, Dad got even closer to my brother. And me? I just faded more into the background. I tried to push through, tried again to connect with him, but the harder I tried, the more I felt like I was just this reminder of everything he didn't like. Watching them be so close, it hurt. I'd never had that kind of bond with him, never would. People like to say, all parents have favorites. But unless you've been that kid, the one left out, you don't know how bad that stings. All I ever wanted was for him to accept me. But it never happened. My brother was too young to notice when we were kids. Even now, I doubt he really sees how different it was for me. And I don't blame him, but I also can't forget it. Losing mom changed everything. I was just barely a teenager, and suddenly I had no one in that house who saw me, who got me. She was my anchor, my support, the only one who believed I had something special in me. And once she was gone, I felt completely alone, and things only got worse from there. By the time I was wrapping up high school, I finally felt like I knew what I wanted to do with my life: tech. I'd been messing around with coding for years, and it was finally starting to click. I had a few small projects to show for it, even put together a basic online portfolio. I was ready to take it seriously. College for computer science just made sense. There wasn't really a plan B in my head. So I started applying. I didn't shoot low either. I went for schools with strong tech programs, the kind of places that actually open doors. I even managed to land a summer internship at a local startup to get some real hands-on experience. For once, it felt like I was on a path that mattered, like I had a shot at building something real. But then things got complicated. My dad, who'd never really shown much interest in my coding or what I was working on, wasn't exactly thrilled when I asked for help paying for college. I knew tuition was going to be steep, especially at the schools I got into. I had some scholarships lined up, but I still needed some support. So I sat him down and told him everything. My plans, the work I'd put in, the internship, the scholarships. I laid it all out. He sat there quietly, barely reacting. And when I finished, he just sighed and said, "I don't think it's worth spending that kind of money on something so uncertain." He started going on about how tech jobs aren't real, how I needed to focus on something more stable. Meanwhile, this was the same guy who dropped thousands on sports stuff for my brother without batting an eye. New gear, travel, private training, you name it. But for me, college was suddenly too big of a risk. I tried to show him it wasn't just a phase. I had a real plan and was willing to do the work. I even showed him my acceptance letters and the scholarship offers, but he just shook his head like I was some naive kid chasing a pipe dream. Then he said, "Your brother's struggling right now. He needs us. You'll figure it out." That one hit me hard. It didn't feel like money was the real issue. It was like he just didn't believe in what I was doing. Like everything I'd worked for meant nothing to him. So I packed up my stuff and left. I headed straight to my aunt's place, my mom's older sister. She was always around, just kind of in the background, but she was the one person I knew I could count on. She didn't live fancy, small house, tight budget, but when I told her what happened, she didn't even hesitate. She let me move in right away. Switching schools, leaving my friends behind, that part wasn't easy. It felt like I was starting over from scratch, but I couldn't stay in a house where I felt invisible anymore. When I told my aunt about my college plans, she shocked me. She said she'd help pay for it. She didn't have much, living paycheck to paycheck herself, but she said she'd figure something out. She even talked to a few of her friends, and they chipped in too. I'll never forget sitting in her tiny kitchen, looking at the checks from people who barely even knew me, but who still believed in me more than my own dad ever had. That moment stuck with me. I made myself a promise that night. I'd make every cent count. I'd make them proud. So I enrolled, started my degree in computer science. It felt unreal to finally be doing what I loved. I kept my head down, worked hard, and soaked up every bit I could from my professors and the program. I felt like, for once, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. During that time, I started working on a project I'd been thinking about for a while, something I thought could actually make a difference in the tech space. Between classes, part-time work, and sleepless nights, I chipped away at it line by line. It wasn't easy, it was exhausting, but I kept pushing. And through it all, my aunt was always there, asking questions, encouraging me, even when she didn't understand half the tech stuff I talked about. Just knowing she was in my corner gave me the strength to keep going. Looking back, yeah, I think that whole experience made me tougher, but it also changed something in me. I stopped expecting anything from my dad or my brother. I knew they were never going to be the kind of family I needed. That hurt. Still does, if I'm honest. But it also lit a fire in me. Eventually, I started saving up from side gigs and freelance work. Every month, I'd slip my aunt a little envelope with what I could afford. She always waved it off, said it wasn't necessary, but to me, it was. She gave me a shot when no one else would. I couldn't let that go unpaid. By my final year, I had a working prototype for the app I'd been building. I didn't really tell anyone, I didn't want to jinx it, but I poured everything I had into it. Maybe, just maybe, it would be the thing that proved I was worth betting on, even if my dad never saw it. College, coding, scraping by on barely enough. That was my life for a few years. It wasn't glamorous, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Every obstacle, every long night, every step forward made me feel like I was finally becoming someone I could be proud of, even if the people who were supposed to care the most never noticed. Funny thing is, I stopped needing them to.